Hey everybody, welcome back to Adobe Office Hours, the show where we generative fill your brains with creative knowledge.
What was that text you sent to me? Something about you mentioned.
Oh,
You had a
generative
good joke
Phillip?
about it.
Generative
Yeah.
Phillip, the fancy
Yes.
generative fill, yes.
Yeah. There you
Hey
go.
everybody, nice to see you. I am Andrew Hockrattle.
I am Nick Longo.
And Nick,
Welcome to Office Hours.
If you want to point that way, we can introduce chat as well. Chat, introduce
Hey,
yourselves over there.
look at there. Introduce yourself.
I think we're the only Adobe Live show that puts chat on screen because those of you who are watching after, hi, hello, replay people, we want you to be a part of the conversation too, right? If you don't get to see what's happening during the show, it's over there. So say hi, give a greeting, and let's go ahead and hop in. Today we're talking about Cultivate. The word of the day is Cultivate. Every week we choose a theme in this show, and we talk to you about how to do that theme. And so today we're talking about Cultivate. And Nick, what do we mean by Cultivate?
It's one of my favorite words, by the way. Did I not tell you that already?
Really?
Yeah, I remember seeing when we were really young, we went to our uncles brought us to a play somewhere in like Boston, and we saw this thing that Cultivate was used in this thing, and I was like, that is the best word. It's like when you want to get better, you want something to grow, you want something to improve. It's the care and the stuff you do to whatever it is to get better.
I had a team that I worked with that was named Cultivate, and it was the worst client possibly that I've ever had, and it was a nightmare to work with. So we have opposite experiences with the word Cultivate, but today we're going to be showing you how to cultivate, and we're going to start out with some examples of maybe some brands that have cultivated different things. Nick, what do we do at the beginning of every show as we jump into our theme?
We show our intro that says trendworthy.
Of the ways to make that transition, that was the best answer. Bravo. All right, yes, it's time for Trendworthy. All right, so we're here at Trendworthy. We are going to be talking about different ways. Oh, this is not the right screen for Nick.
That is not the right screen.
We'll get there. Everybody calm down. Chat, calm down. Calm down, chat. All right, we're here together.
You guys are crazy.
Y'all are crazy. Let's go ahead and talk about Cultivate. Let's talk about some brands who have cultivated different things. And Nick, give us your perspective as we hop into this. What are we looking at with these brands?
Let's not look at them as just rebrands. Let's look at them as, did this rebrand or did this adjustment improve success? Did it do something? Did it push the needle for these companies? And the ones we've chosen have been out for quite a while. So I think these have proof that I think they've been doing well. And this first one is one of my favorites. I do agree. It's probably one of the simplest logos in the world, but it's so effective for US Open. I think when you look at the two of them here, their whole point was they needed to be better on screens. They had the adaptability. They needed to go from app to display to things in stadium to make sure it would work. And the old one, with that old font and that more complex logo filled with a gradient, very tough to achieve on screens, right?
Oh, doing the gradient logo, that was a move for a long time, especially the gold foil gradient. I love this one, that it is fully reimagined, and I think that what's interesting is the context on this. I think that they've pulled in a better context. With the type being in italic because it's in motion, right? The ball is not on fire, it is just moving, right? They have a little bit better context and understanding of where this logo is going to go.
Yeah, the blurred kind of it's going so fast that it has this constant streak rather than, like you said, the flames behind it. To me, it's exactly what you see when the ball is when they're showing a replay and it's on a still and it has that almost extended back to it. That's exactly what they brought to life. I really love this, but it's super effective and it works. And I'm assuming they've probably seen incredible success since changing.
Cultivated. Right? Yeah. All right, the next one, baby. Dunkin', which Dunkin' just went through, I think, another...
Got a little thinner.
It got a little thinner. Yeah, Dunkin' lost some weight, which I think is a really interesting, and talking about cultivating, right? Yeah. That this is the great example that it isn't a reimagining. They're literally just cultivating and building the brand and refining as they go.
Yeah, with Dunkin' Donuts being their core name for so long, and now they're going after the Starbucks market. a lot of people just thought, do they only sell donuts? And with coffee being the thing that they were truly pushing, and don't forget too, they started East Coast. So for them to come all across the country, they have the narrative now that has to be new to all these new customers. But back East, everyone knows them as Dunkin' Donuts, right? Yep. And to switch to Dunkin' alone, immediately taking that donuts away, made them a more of an offering. Like it's more with less, right?
Yes.
It's like they took away the thing that defined them, but now they can do the breakfast sandwiches and they can do the midday things, and they've got a little bit more of an emphasis on health when it comes to some of their stuff. So even more so, they've taken this current one and they've slimmed it down. It's just a slight alteration, probably to show a little thinner atmosphere. I don't know what, maybe that could be some subjective thing that they're trying to do in there. Yep. But quite a successful little turn there.
Yeah. And we have somebody saying some decades back it was cool to have the depth, the 3D-ish and colorful logos.
Yes.
Now it's more minimalistic, but not too basic, back to basics. Yes. I agree. Yeah. And this is a great example, right? That we have like the clip art little coffee cup over here with the little like smoky things, and then it's just gone down. It's all about back to basics, keeping things simple and keeping things kind of refined. Yeah. Also, if you haven't seen this case study, like literally every single piece of this study is amazing.
Really nice.
This was Pentagram? I think this was Paula.
Knowles, right? Was it Knowles?
Oh, maybe I'm wrong.
It could be.
It was one of
look that up.
One of the big boys.
Yes.
We'll come back to it when we get to another screen.
Yeah.
All right. So continuing, Burger King. And I like this one because when you think of Cultivate, it's like building up, and this is more stripping back. Like that it was already cultivated, and they just kept digging until they got back to where they started.
It's almost like, and we're going to show you a lot of these examples in our own work later on in the show.
Yes.
But
oh my gosh,
to me, this is cultivated by going back to basics. It's going back to something that worked. And although they're having a little issue now, they're not doing too well. They're closing.
Really?
They're closing like 300 stores this year.
Aww.
So I just think it's like a matter of, they went so out with I love this. This is one of my favorite rebrands of all time. But what they were doing was it definitely made a splash with this new one. And I think they cultivated something really nice here. But long term, how many of these fast food companies can really withstand the test of time now that I think the health conscious thing is just kind of becoming more and more there, and they haven't joined that bandwagon in any way.
As a man who eats Burger King on the regular, speaking to the vegan who probably hasn't had it in 10 years, I have a different perspective.
You're right, because it's indulgent and it's definitely comfort. Yeah. I think they're doing a great job, but it kind of, sales talk, right? Money's talk here. And so I don't know. It's kind of interesting to see, but I still think it's worth showing it because it had to work everywhere. And I think the old one just shrieks of 90s.
I agree. It
really did.
Which is what we just showed with the US Open as well.
Exactly.
Walmart. I actually saw this logo the other day talking about cultivating success. I saw this in the mental pictures that I have with the old logo versus the new logo. World of difference. I think that they have cultivated not just like a new logo, but like an entirely new brand experience.
It's world class now. It used to be like the headline of a neighborhood newsletter. Like, you know what I mean? Like the old Walmart, it was almost like it just, I hate to say it, but it looked cheap. They needed to, the way Target has turned into more of a destination and Walmart didn't have that yet. Their take on it with their rebrand, if you look at what they did it for, it stood the test of time. It did not cater to a design of the moment, and it's still running strong now, and it's reinvigorated, I think, their entire brand.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, but this logo, gigantic on the side of just a massive building, will never get beat. Like walking into a Walmart with these letters like 30 feet high, I loved the sign. And now it's like small and like it's on like the corner of the building. Like this illuminated above the entrance all the way across the building. Give that to me every day.
And the upper and lowercase, a more friendly approach. I think they wanted to cultivate a more welcoming thing, and we've seen that happen with a lot of brands. I think, haven't you had many times where you've changed the font just from all caps to upper and lower, or sometimes even all lower, and instantly it has the friendliness.
Yep. Yeah. And we see right here, right, that we have these like sharp edges. Yes. And I love that we come over here and we have the sharp with the soft, right? We're trying to be like approachable, but still, it's a really good blend. And even it's interesting that the M doesn't have any of those, that it's like if a letter has a round, then it doesn't. Yes. Even the T doesn't have any of those edges. It looks like it's just on the A and the W to give it that little swash.
Just enough there. I love the friendliness of it. Yeah. And
I'm also very interested that this isn't swooping the other way so that it reads into the word.
Yeah.
We're here. Walmart, hire us.
We'll help you out.
Yeah. Office hours is available for consulting. Dave Clayton in chat, one of our friends. Hi, Dave.
No way.
Dave is a friend of the show. We love Dave.
Dave,
hanging out.
Wait, you're coming here
to the US?
I'm coming there.
Freaky Friday, swap places.
I love it.
Okay, so this is moving on from brands, and let's talk about like cultivating some different things that you can do in your work. Nick, what else should we be cultivating in our work?
This I love because I wanted to find things outside of just brand and maybe more in the artistic illustration vibe of where cultivating emotion is really what can drive your design and in everything you do. And I wanted to find a few examples that I thought evoked this immediate emotional reaction when you look at them. What this does is it communicates that quickly, right? You've got all these fun little iconic things. There's an attitude, I think, consistent in every little thing that you're seeing here. And the color choices too. Like there's so many things you can think about. Is this actually creating an emotion, right? I know you drop that a lot into your work and you want to make sure there's a emotional instant thing that you can almost describe when you look at it, right?
Yes. Yeah. I try to tell people, I'm like, I don't necessarily want you to feel good. I want you to like feel good. Yes. Like be able to like understand and really connect with the piece and the emotion of the piece. And this is something that I definitely take into account. Actually, I'm going to pull up my Behance real quick.
Yeah.
And show you all a project on there. Oh boy. Behance. Andrew, pull it together. Oh, Andrew. Behance. Oh my gosh. .net. Oh, here we go. All right. We did it, y'all. We made it. So yes, getting emotion. So a project like this, back to school stuff, right? That we have like, oh, it's fun and it's bright and whatever, but then incorporating something like this, like, oh, it's not just in, it's not just like static, it's always in motion, it's moving, right? It's a little elements. And I actually love this one with the soft, you can see the soft and hard edge. We actually, I just broke everything. Hold on.
Broke all the barriers.
There we go. You can see like in this edge, right, that we had it ringing. And so we cut out like a straight circle and then we had like a very like wonky circle. So it's the little details to help people kind of get emotion and connect by taking it up another level.
You've got the cutout paper. You've got the bright primary colors. All those little things, when you look up what are all these things that cultivate a instant idea to back to school.
Yes.
Right? That's kind of a good test to kind of look at anything that you're working on.
Yep, absolutely.
Love it.
This project was so much freaking fun. Also, this is like full stop motion. This was, and again, sometimes to cultivate the right emotion, it's going to take more work. And this is a great example of cultivating. This literally was frame by frame, shooting top down, moving each piece of paper piece by piece. And it's like you're building because nothing would have had this same like aesthetic and look and emotional connection if we were just animating this in After Effects. It would feel different, right? We wouldn't have the paper. And like, so
sometimes you can't rely on just the most advanced technology of the moment. You have to go backwards a little bit and do it the way you want the feeling to be.
Yep,
you know?
Absolutely.
Love that.
All right, so, and yes, love the 3 + 3 = 6 to the 3 × 3 = 9. I was so excited about that as well. Small details. All right, cultivating emotion. Ooh, this is an interesting conversation. What's this example?
I'm a big fan of when you can create something of nostalgia and old vintage vibes correctly, right? Not from just what feels like a clip art. I love these ones that know how to do it with the right color, the right typography, the right shading, the right illustration technique. And what I love about this is if you, and I do a lot of restaurants, so I'm learning as we go here, because I love this line that it's not just offering a unique menu. That's not what's so cool about it, but it's offering nourishment. It's offering kind of, filling your belly. It's all those things, right? if you keep that in mind and make it more appealing and more attractive by the emotional connection that you can cultivate in all of these elements, I think you win. That's where something will stand the test of time. It's not like, oh, did you use the hot font of the moment or a great color palette that everybody's using? But if you actually do the math and know how to actually add it all up to something like this.
Yep.
You know?
And I think something else that happens with this kind of image when you're cultivating, like, especially the details and style on this,
yes,
is that you cultivate a story. Like, to me, this is not just a logo. I imagine that, like, oh, I'm going to natural farms, and like I can see the farms, and like the farmer's like on the porch, like having a tea, and wants to like tell me stories and give me a tour, and like his favorite cow.
Get in the old truck.
There.
I'm gonna take you to the farm, and we're gonna show you some stuff.
Exactly. So I think that, like, as you choose those details, you can really cultivate a story and a whole aesthetic around a graphic or a logo or a brand that isn't just the thing, right? That it's not just like, oh, I cultivated a logo. It's like, no, we're building a story around this. So
that's it.
Little breakdown, Nick. Let's talk about delight. How do we cultivate emotions?
This was a good one, because I think the end result for anything we create that's going to be seen by someone is that ultimate delight. And how do you capture it? The three things: the visceral, the behavioral, and the reflective. These are things that kind of add up to that ultimate thing and will make someone actually kind of fall in love with either the product, the art, the offering, whatever it might be, because you've hit these three emotional kind of triggers. And when they come together in that little sweet spot, that's the delight. And I'm gonna, like, when I found this one, I was like, wow, I've never really thought about it this way. I think I tend to look at my brainstorming and everything we have from discovery and almost try to do this visually in my mind. But I love this graphic because I think if you could kind of find those three elements and where they intersect, I think it's a really unique way to kind of hit that next project, you know?
I think it's interesting too that some of these, and again, I love being like controversial and like pushing the envelope in my work, but there are times of like looking at this, I'm like, I just want to hit the top part. Like, I just want something to be visceral. Like, I want no behavior. I want no reflective, no delight. Like, I just want visceral. And so it's interesting to see this kind of diagram and understand that a lot of people and a lot of clients especially want to land in that middle, right? The moment of delight and surprise. But it's okay to venture out into the other zones and explore like what could be like behavioral design, what could be something that's more reflective. How do we get people to like think a little bit better, or how do we get people to have like an emotional reaction to it? I think that it's interesting to kind of use design as a way to help people accomplish and kind of process through feelings and emotions and stuff.
Don't you think we go through things so fast now with the way technology, pop culture works right now? Like, nothing stands for more than 5 weeks, it seems like, right?
Yep.
So how do you, to this point, like the enduring part, like the thing that's going to last? And I think that's one area I'm really trying to concentrate more on. What would you pick as a unique attribute to a brand, or one of those keywords in your discovery that feels enduring, like that could stand the test of time for something that you might be like working on at this moment right now?
Like a timeless?
You know what I mean? But like, and then what would make it timeless? So like, do you go to previous examples of things that have stood the test of time? And dissect those things? What will make your work that you're working on? Or Chad, if you've got a good kind of like, it's almost like, what is that thing that's going to make something enduring? Because we don't tend to stick with things too long anymore. You know what I mean? The trends go so quickly. So I guess, do you go back to the roots? Do you go back to the things that, you know, like really, like that one image we looked at that was like that restaurant? That seems to stand the test of time. That doesn't go out of style as quickly as something else that might be a little bit more trendy.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't know if that's something that you can like control, making something timeless. I think you just have to do good work, like try to find a moment that connects with people, and then it just like sticks. It's hard to try to make something timeless. I hate when clients tell me that.
And then cross your fingers a little bit.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we want it to be timeless. And I'm like, well, I'm making it right now. So what do you want me to do with that? What's going on here? More graphs. I know that chat's not super excited about graphs happening, but they're helping us understand a little bit about how we engage with design. Nick, what's going on with this graph?
So read what this says. This is a product or an offering, let's say, is only loved and delightful when it is desirable, usable, and compelling. And I think these are just other words to think about when you are talking with a client or someone that you're working with on a project. Get some words that are going to make sure that those things are checked off your boxes. And again, it's just all funneling down to that final thing that someone's just going to be perfectly engaged with and said, yes, that's what I'm looking for. Like, let's just face it, 90% of our purchases are based off brand and packaging. If it's a product we've never used before, right? I use that over referral than anything.
Oh yeah.
So what else is talking about all this stuff other than the design and the art?
Yep. And I think the thing with compelling, I would always, in my brainstorm process, like I would always get to the compelling kind of station. And my thing that I would always ask that people got so mad about is we would like get to an idea and I'd be like, so like, what's the thing? Like, what's the thing? And they're like, what do you mean? And I was like, what's the thing? Like, yeah. What you should be able to communicate at this point, if you think you have something compelling, that you should be able to answer that question of like, what is the thing? It is a very broad question, but you should have an answer if you're at that point where you're like, I think this is compelling. And I'm like, great, convince me. And then it's like, oh, I don't know what the thing. It's like kind of this and kind of that. And I was like, it's not compelling. Like you should be able one sentence to tell me what's the thing. And so my team would always get so mad at me because we'd be in brainstorm and then I'd be like, so like, what's the thing? Like,
I call it the BFD.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes, that, right? Yes, yep. And then I get
if
to
it's not there, let's find it.
Yeah.
Let's find it.
Why should I care about this? Right? We move to the emotional of and you've probably heard me say this on the show before when we looked at like rebrands or whatever. My like go-to is if I don't have an emotional connection to it, I just go, I'm bored. And so we get to compelling. Hey, what's the thing? Right? Hey, here's the thing. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
We see the application. It's got the thing. It's compelling. And I look at it and I'm just like, I'm bored. Like it doesn't have that emotional response. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I love it. Right. If you don't have that, then usually the project is going to fall. All right. So, let's just have some like art motions.
I love this.
And here, let's do this. All right. We're going to have,
you putting on some music I can't hear.
Yeah. All right. But the music's going to get a little bit louder. We're going to, hold on. Let me turn this up. All right, everybody. This music's weirdly sexy. I don't know why. All right, so we're going to see what emotion does this piece
tell us
really hold in your heart as we look at this art together. Tell us the cultivated emotional response that you're having. Just toss that in chat for us. This music's way too sexy. You're gonna listen back to the replay, Nick, and you're gonna be like,
I'm gonna hear it immediately.
What was happening here? Okay, so yes, peace of mind. Love this one. Continue on.
Motivation, any kind of movement or like action, or I think you can dissect these like on every different level, right? Like that's what I kind of love about true art and what it can actually do. Is there a motivator behind it? You know?
Absolutely. Escape reality.
Again, why do you go to a museum? Why do you go and look and observe these things? I think a lot of times when you see something like this, everyone has a different interpretation, right? Isn't that cool?
Journey with us and escape reality on Adobe Office Hours. All right, the music's going back down. I need to sneeze.
I can't wait to hear it.
Oh no, I got to kill Mike for that.
No, I can't wait to hear the music.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Okay, we're back. Thanks, chat, for going on that emotional journey with
giant
us.
Bubblegum bubble over the ocean. Yeah, that was a kind of a neat way to say it. And then you just look at this. Like, I mean, there's such an imagination going on here that like I forget to like I think get inspired by these kind of great works of art as much as I should.
I was in New York last month, and I went to MoMA, and I was like walking around, and I turned the corner, and this is just there, like on the wall. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like the surprise of knowing this painting, right? And I literally was like looking for the bathroom, turned the corner, and I'm like, well, there's Starry Night, along with like the sunflowers and the self-portrait of Vincent Van. I'm just like, the Van Gogh is here. Here it is. And so I love the emotional response that I had at that moment, right? That this is like a cultural piece. It's not just about the work; it's about like the story around it.
Oh yeah,
and being able to see
it
live.
live.
Like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. So yes. All right. So continuing on, let's keep talking about cultivating. We got about I don't know, like a half hour left.
Yeah.
We got plenty of time to do things. Nick, do we want to look at some projects. Let's look at some projects and maybe some of our process that has been good, bad, how we've cultivated ideas. And Nick has some here. We're going to pop over to his screen. Nick, take us through. Actually, before I'm going to come back here, talk to me about what it's like to cultivate a project.
I think that's the thing to me that changes with every new project. I think I find little hurdles or pain points in the previous one, and I try to make sure I get better and better with each one. And most importantly, don't blame anybody but yourself if something didn't go right, or if there was a project that could have been improved in some way. I always like to say, what could I do better this next time? And so what I want to show in this one is kind of a huge leap I made in kind of going extra steps, and it really didn't perform or cultivate as well as I could have thought, because we went right. My first concept, my first instinct was 100% right, and the client went back to it. So to show you that journey, and boy, did we both have a similar story to tell there, right?
I was gonna say, what's the absolute worst is when you don't think you're going to have to cultivate an idea, and then you get into the project and you have to cultivate the crap out of that freaking idea. And just keep going. So it's hard sometimes. So Nick, let's take a look through a project that you worked on and to look at how you cultivated your creative process.
Yeah. And going through discovery, going through a good capture here of everything that the brand was going to be that we agreed on. And to be honest with you, we never really ventured off of this. It was just the interpretation of what I thought this looked like, what the client looked like, and then maybe what the upper tier management of the company thought months later. And what's interesting is we took this through an entire kind of open, what does this look like? Here's a brand board. Here's what we were thinking. Here's some initial kind of quick ideas of what the packaging could look like. We were just kind of wondering, could this pizza look as authentic and real as a pizzeria, and something very nostalgic and very kind of old fashioned? Now, I am going to tell you to kind of keep an eye on this one, because we're going to see this again. But this one was the first pretty much concept that was shown.
Nick, when did you do this project?
We're still in it. It's only about 3 to 3 months old.
This is the font that we looked at on a show like a couple weeks ago. Remember when we opened the font pack and now you're like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. Is that where you got it from?
Rumble Brave.
Yes.
And it will make it to a brand near you as soon as I can.
That's so cool. So again,
I do love
watch Office Hours, get inspired, and then take it into your actual projects, because Nick and I do all the time.
So we take it a little bit further. We start showing it in the different colors. We're making changes. Then you can see the difference. We're like, oh, bring in some textile, bring in some texture. We did that. We were exploring so many different things. Then we did the kind of like 2/3, 1/3 kind of split to add a little bit of dynamic kind of, impulse and kind of attention grabbing vibe there as well. Then I always like to show them, obviously at a glance. Then it got into a different lift. There's like tiny little tweaks and changes, but here's where we go crazy. This is where we show it. And I think this is a great way to see if your brand is cultivating correctly, right? If it's actually working against the competitor. So we show it with all the different competitors to see how that looks. Then we go into here. We have some more revisions. Guess what? It wasn't rustic enough. So we brought in more rustic. We brought in photography in the background. We brought in the elements of the ingredients. Then we did one that was a little more artistic and minimal and kind of like reminiscent of maybe a few restaurant brands that are out there doing the same thing. And then a completely different, this one was one of my favorites because it just was not typically my vibe. I think it was neat to kind of explore something a little bit different.
That's
with the handmade font. I love that. Yeah, we took a font and basically redrew it with tracing paper, and Adobe captured it in, and we got all of those fun little, like irregularities in there as well. Then we show again here. We show it again with that. Go to number 4. We're looking, hey, does the color work? Maybe not. Then we go to 5, and guess what? This is when everyone's like, we showed it to some other folks, and guess what? We kind of liked option 1.
Oh yeah, you cycle all the way back around.
Woo! And I'm very happy with it because you guys all know it. We could talk amongst each other, right? That first concept sometimes is the banger. It's the one, and like sometimes I'm like,
Very aware.
I've got to learn to just like understand that, like, stand for it. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you know it's right. I tried a few different tactics here to kind of keep it going, keep that kind of alive, even though we were venturing off on all these other ones. But when it came right down to it, and we looked at these final three, we went right back to this guy here, and this became the final. And I'll show you how it's looking right now. So this is the final layout as we're doing the back, the sides, everything, and it's really coming along nicely. I'm very happy with it. But what would you like? Where do you think we can stand up for that concept, or how do we know? How do we know it's the right one? Is it just a feeling? Is it based on real things that we've cultivated that are going to make this the right concept? What do you think?
I think this is probably not the right answer, so don't take my advice.
Yeah. Love
don't.
To hear it.
Yeah. Okay. So my thought is, if I know that I have the right answer, I usually will give like one more option that is like, hey, this is like completely in another zone. Is this maybe like you're looking for something different and you just don't know it, right? So I give one that's like a lot different. And then if they're like, oh, we kind of like this and that, then all of my next iterations will be worse than all of the other ones. And so I try to communicate that I'm like, hey, I'm really passionate about this first idea. I think that it is the best option. We can explore more, but I can almost guarantee that like they will not be as good. And not because I'm going to try less or whatever, but like I won't be as passionate about it. And I think that we have already reached, based on the brief, like I think from my professional opinion, this is where we're going to end up landing. And so they're like, well, let's try like a version of this and a version of that. And then it usually comes back to like, oh, we landed on where we started. It's like they just needed to see what they didn't want, which is the worst, because then it's kind of a trust of like cultivating a relationship with the client as opposed to actually cultivating the project, which is no fun.
I agree. I just don't want to do the work I would never want to do the work and make it weaker in a way. You know what I mean? Like I want to find more of a way to stand up for that one 100% and give them all of the rationale behind it. And I think another thing to do is, I was thinking about this in the background. Have all the stakeholders seen this? And maybe that's a question to ask a little sooner too, and kind of, never get into that situation. I'm glad Reaver Mike mentioned, what if the pizza inside doesn't look better than the pizza on the box? And I'm a huge stickler for that with all my clients, that we got to make sure we're delivering what's being promised. And I kind of tell them, let's be truthful with it. Right now, I think I had told you, the pizzas are being shot right now as we speak. And I'm really
Nick is doing double duty right now.
Yeah, there we go. There it is. There's the photo shoot happening like right now. So we're doing that. I'm making sure they're not adding to it, because I think, wouldn't that be false advertising? I'm not a fan of that when it happens to me, Yep. So it's looking good. So now we're all hungry.
Let me take you to something that is less delicious. So a project that I'm working on right now, again, in the middle of, Nick and I are actively doing a million things at the same time. So I'm working on this project for an event that Adobe is doing. It's a creative retreat. And we are very much in the cultivating process. So this was the first idea that we explored. And this was the one that like, I think is the strongest, right? Mm-hmm. That we're going on a retreat. It's not quite camp, but it's supposed to be like fun. It's supposed to be for kind of like 70s revival, like that kind of psychedelic look. I went very Schoolhouse Rock kind of vibes. Really weird type, lots of fun. So we played around with this. This wasn't quite it. This was not professional enough, is kind of the feedback, is that they wanted something that felt a little more design focused for like design professionals. And so then I was like, okay, let's like try something different. So we went down here, and this was like not good. Like this is just not good. It's like, okay, I'm like trying something new, and you're like, what's the takeaway? And you're like, I tried something new.
This has stripes and like curves.
That's it. Yeah. So then I tried to do some like Pan Am stuff, and I just deleted all this because it was pretty much the same. Then I played around with this kind of big, bold type, trying to take a swing in another direction. And this wasn't quite it. This was a little too like casual. Then we went up here. This was just
step by step.
Yeah, right. This was like a little too. It's kind of a nothing burger, right? And at this point, I'm at this point I think that I was like, I don't know where else to go, right? This is like based on an old project that I did, and I was like, I don't know, let's like look at something that someone hasn't used from a past project and see if I can like revive it and give it new life. And so I threw this together and I was like, this isn't it. So then I went up here and I was like, okay, cool, this is going somewhere. Like we've got
professional.
Yeah, like more professional. It's minimalist. It's modern. It's got like, it just has a lot more going on with it, right? And so then this morning got the feedback that we want to go back to here with some changes.
Full circle, everybody.
Full circle. But that's kind of how the process goes sometimes. And I've worked with this team on a bunch of stuff. And some of it has been like, boom, done. Awesome. Like we nailed it first try.
Yes.
And we like really got it. This is something that like you have to cultivate it and you have to keep going and trying new things. And we're at the point now to where we've talked about this of compromising. I think that when you're cultivating ideas, sometimes you're having to compromise. And for me, I loved where this was. Like, I am in love with this. I even had some like icons. Let me undo and see. Yeah. So
I
had
love
some like
puzzle fonts like that. Oh,
yes.
Those they just kind of nest perfectly together like that.
Yes.
Really cool.
I just dragged all these pieces out. This was like, I saw it and I was just like, and so I had like all these little stickers and I was like, this is so fun and warm and whatever. And so when they came back and they're like, oh, we want it to feel more professional, right? That's something that as we're cultivating together, I'm like, yes, I understand that. Like, these are not professional. They're not really on brand. They're kind of just like random pieces that's like more about like the camp than actual creativity. So now we're back here. And so I'm going to spend the night revising this and trying to figure out how do I incorporate more professional and how do I get it to be like a level up so that creative professionals feel like it's for them. So sometimes you just have to work and work and work, and then eventually you'll land somewhere.
Yeah, I think we both bring up a great point of how do you cultivate a better relationships with your client, with whoever has the expectations of what you're delivering, right?
And they've been amazing to work with. It's not that we're like beefing.
Oh, sure. Same.
It literally is like, oh, this is going to take a little more work than we have in the past. And so that's why it's important to have a cultivation process. Because past things that we've done, we've just been one and out. Like we did it and we're done. We got it. But it's so important.
And that's a godsend, right? That's like, don't love it.
It's so important that in situations like this, you have to have the process to fall back on of like, cool, we're like behind deadline. We're running slow, but we're running the process. Like at this point, we're in the process and we're going to keep going until it's done. And hopefully it's done soon. But it's one of those things that it's not that it's lack of skill or lack of communication. Like I'm skilled, they're communicating. We just can't seem to land where we need to. And so you just cultivate until you land there, right? Be confident in your skills.
What would you have cultivated differently in maybe your creative brief now that you've gone through a few? Let's say we've all gone through a few of these where we're like, either we completely missed the mark at the first one or we do the full circle and come back. Are there questions you might add to your original questionnaire or brief that would, and chat chime in as well? What would have made it better?
I think it would have been better to understand the audience a little bit better. The past ones that I've done for like next gen, like Gen Z kind of stuff. And so I think this is a little too fun, knowing that it's like exclusive and invited and like for like design professionals that are juniors and seniors that are like graduating college. And so knowing that, I'd be like, okay, I probably would have taken a different direction in this kind of 70s zone. The mood boards that I got. Ooh, do y'all want to see mood boards?
I was just gonna say,
I can take you into this project. Yeah,
just showing those things how did they represent the first few steps that you put out there, the first few concepts? Because I agree too. Like I'm trying to change that tremendously every time. Like that's my number one thing I try to improve is and my mood board is not even a mood board anymore. It's totally different, you know?
Yep. So where are those moods?
Because you shouldn't have to do a lot of work at this stage. You should just be finding the elements, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
So these are the moods that I got. And so I was like, I feel like I'm pretty on par with the like weird type that's happening down here, right? I've got the extruded type elements here. I've got these kind of colors and line art that's happening here. This I feel like is not going with the rest of it, so I kind of was like, okay, like the type is wonky and weird, but I feel like this is a different aesthetic.
Yeah.
And so then retro, fun, bright, joyful design. I'm like, yeah, I think that I got these. I think I probably missed the design portion on it, which is hopefully where when I incorporate maybe some different sticker icons that are more design focused, right? That it will bring it back into that zone of like, okay, it feels more designery now. So I think I'm going to add in some stickers like this that are
I see the difference.
Pen tools.
I do see the difference. I think even like, did any of the references have a black outline or black at all? They were much more color oriented in the
I think they were. Yes.
Right?
These had pretty heavy blacks. Yeah. And then the line on here, it's thinner, but I think maybe thinning out the line.
Isn't it funny what a font will do to the overall kind of like voice of a design?
Oh yeah.
It really, like we all can look at this and say like, I feel like it nailed everything you were saying it was. But then when you see the reference stuff, I felt like maybe they were a bit more modern and kind of going to that Pan Am thing, but the more like now moment of it.
Yes.
You know?
That's why when I did the Pan Am, also look at this, like what an effect. That's all. I was very excited when I got this effect using a warp and I was like, ooh, that's gorgeous. Even that I feel like feels just thinning out that line. I feel like helps. We're in a live design session now. That's all that's happening. Andrew's gonna fix this project together.
Right there. No long night tonight. He's fixing it right now.
I'm fixing it right now. Yeah. I can't fix this because this is a blend and it's blended to 200 steps. So when I change that, I'm gonna need a hot minute to let that render out. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's move back. We got about 15 minutes left in the show.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about how to do these things, right? We're talking about cultivating, and you've kind of asked some questions as we've gone through. Let's talk about some expert insights. I have a button for that. I was trying to make a smooth transition. It wasn't super, I don't know. It wasn't. Nick, what segment are we going to?
We're heading over to expert insight.
I need a supercut of just the sounds you make during the transitions, because every time there's like a like.
That's going to be in our best of, greatest hits.
Best of, which we never had a 3-year celebration episode. Maybe we'll do it at 200 or 150 episodes, which I think we're coming up on.
Cool.
Soon.
Oh, that's right.
All right. So cultivating success. Let's talk about this. How do we cultivate success in our creative careers?
Continuous learning. We're all here, right? We're all doing this, but if you are not staying up to date, if you are not looking at new trends and things that are out there, look at all the stuff that Adobe has put out in just like the last few weeks that's getting exciting kind of traction with all that. That's the stuff to kind of continuously learn how to like do those things that you're going to figure something out. I love anything that's going to speed my process up, but more importantly, I love anything that's going to make me relate and have a better conversation with the client, with whoever I'm working with. So to me, keeping that learning thing alive is 100% the best thing.
Yep, absolutely. For me, developing a growth plan. It's important to have. Nick, do you have like a 5-year plan at this point in your life?
No, and I think that's what's so interesting about sometimes when I'm like, when someone asks, what do you want to do next? Or what are your plans? Because I think I've just been so happy in the mix of what I get to do right now. I'm not doing this. And I think it's time to kind of start planning that a little bit. What do you think?
I don't either. I'm not good with like plans. I like to kind of, I like opportunities. I don't like plans. I like opportunities and trying to like maximize on an opportunity. And so I love that like this literally says develop a growth plan. And we're both like, nah.
I'll admit I need it. Yeah. I think there's a balance there. You should have the spontaneous kind of vibe that you have. And I'm typically the planner 100%, but I'm so happy with what I get to do right now. There's no, maybe this is like kind of like, I should be thinking about what I want to do next, but maybe it's just because everything's like great. Like, I don't know.
Everything's great. Life is so awesome. I agree. Everything's great. Yes.
But we should do
it. Yes.
You should cover this in some way because it's just like setting goals for anything that if you want change, something's got to happen, right? So if change is what you're looking for, if there's some desire to grow, get bigger clients, get a better job, do more side work, start a freaking passion project, right? you gotta make this, because actionable steps are really, I think, the best way we all get there.
Yep,
you know,
absolutely. And like, speaking of passion projects, those can be your growth plan. And
totally.
If you want to tune in, July 11th. I'm launching my passion project with Southwest Airlines. Shameless plug. July 11th is when it's happening. I'm actually doing a ton of photo shoots, video shoots, promo and stuff right now. So office hours, I'll keep you in the know. I'll show you some really cool stuff and some behind the scenes as we go into that. It's one of the bigger projects. And so I think you get to see a lot of branding work here, but I'll show you what it's like to build out a full campaign. I'm meeting with photographers, scouting locations, getting camera equipment. I have somebody composing music for the jingles. So it's a lot of different pieces that I think will be fun. And I think next week, Nick, we're talking about recycling, I believe is our is our term. And so we'll talk about maybe some ideas.
Repurposing?
Repurposing that we've used in the past that are coming back. And we'll bring you into the kind of inside scoop on how we do our process. Talking about the challenges that we don't have because our lives are perfect and amazing, Nick, what...
So
talk about this. Actually,
riding off that coattail.
I think this would be interesting.
We're telling you guys to do this. Embrace challenges. But again, I know a lot of young designers that are afraid to maybe take a leap off into something new, adventurous. Maybe it involves, like this says, getting out of that comfort zone. But I've seen the change happens when someone goes and tries something a little bit different. And this could be just, how you approach your job, how you approach your work. Are you doing something that is start painting? If you are completely digital, like that kind of a challenge keeps things fresh. And how else are you going to learn and become innovative in all these things, right?
Yep. Yeah. You have to try new stuff, and you have to do stuff that you think you're going to fail at. I think that that's an important thing too, is like, will I not be able to do this? Maybe, probably. Let's give it a shot and see what happens.
Yeah.
There's no...
This is me trying to be an illustrator on my iPad. It has been a 3-year challenge to get better at that. It hasn't happened.
Yeah. So travel and explore. This is a big one. If you want to see more about how you can explore, we have a whole series here on YouTube.
Abroad.
What was it called? Adobe Abroad?
Abroad. Yeah. Come on, man. We've covered it all, guys. We've covered it all.
We've been around for a hot minute. We started this show 3.5 years ago. It's been a while. So there is a full season of Adobe Abroad if you want to learn how to take your creative skills on the go. There's a full season of that. But I think travel and exploring is good. When you travel, how do you find your inspiration? Or what do you do with inspiration when you're traveling? Do you catalog it? Do you use Capture? What's your zone?
I've done a few. Yeah, it's always photography, first of all. I think that's number one. And then I try to make sure when I get back that I catalog it in some way, shape, or form, which is cool. But I always do, I bring one cool cultural trait back from every kind of country I go to. It might be the way they brew coffee. It might be some cool little routine that they do midday. I love taking something back. If you're not exposed to those things, how do you know to take it back, right? Yep. And and that's, to me, one of my favorite things I love to do. So this is going to be the summer of trips, so I'm excited. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I also am doing a lot of traveling. I like to bring back small trinkets. I always find something that's interesting, like a napkin or a stir stick or something that reminds me of that culture and what was inspiring about it.
There you go.
And kind of bring that back with me. So this next slide is a little bit, I'm gonna do a counterpoints kind of transition here, because I think this next slide is a little controversial.
We haven't done one in a while.
Let's hop into a counterpoints.
I put it in there purposely for you.
All right, cultivate a personal brand. Chat, where did you go? I lost chat.
Chat?
Hold on, chat. Hold on. There you go. So cultivate a personal brand. Nick, we're talking about cultivating a personal brand. Do we need to do this? What is your take on having a personal brand?
Okay, there's a visual personal brand, and then there's a service and reputation personal brand.
Sounds like you're really trying to work your way in the middle here, Nick.
Because I know exactly where you're going, but I don't believe you need the visual personal brand 100%. But what's more important is how your reputation is, how people are when they work with you, all those things. If you are trying to be the typography king out there in the landscape of freelance typographers. Let it be known. That's all I'm saying. I think communicate that in every way, shape, or form. If you're trying to be the generalist, then communicate that too. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
But it doesn't have to be in your logo of your personal brand. Like, that's fine. That's slowly deteriorating. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I think, and I mean, this is
Most
what happens.
designers,
this is what happened
it's
with
your picture
the,
on Instagram.
with
it's
the
not
blanding. Like when the blanding happened, I think that we realized that it's more important to have the values in the system and like a visual language than just having a logo. So I think it's important to have a personal brand from like an aesthetic point of view, from a like quality of work, from a kind of perspective, right? I think that if you see any of my work, it's very much from a specific perspective, right? If you go to my website, andrewhawkerl.com, it is a brand, right? And it doesn't have to, it's not just like, oh, it's a logo. My logo on that website is actually different than a logo that I use anywhere else. But as you scroll through the work, you can understand my perspective as a creator, as a designer, right? And I think it's important to understand that about yourself and then brand yourself with that, right? To be like, I am the guy for this perspective. And that way when a brand's coming, they're like, oh, we want something that's like edgy and irreverent and like kind of like out there and experimental. It's like, oh, those are all words that resonate with Andrew's work. And so being able to cultivate a like personal brand around yourself, I think is really important, or around a business. Having a logo, sure. I think having a logo is a good like coat hook for people to like hang things on.
Yes. Bookmark.
Yes, exactly. So because like the work that I do is very specific. Like you'll see it and you're like, yeah, Andrew probably did that. But you'll see me promoting it and it's just like got a logo thrown on it, right? It's got my little like exclamation mark, because it's like, cool, I just need somewhere for you to like associate that aesthetic with my business. And so having something for people to use as like a coat hanger for understanding your brand and your aesthetic, I think is really important.
So why I think the opposite is because my work does not represent an aesthetic in any way, shape, or form.
Oh yes, you chameleon for sure.
It's client to client 100%.
Yep.
And I love being able to bring, I'm not the master of any one of those styles, but what they need for what their brand is, I could do. So I think that's why I tend to kind of think the personal branding has to have, that's what they can look at and kind of understand. But again, it's the versatility of the art. So we all have a different chemistry with this. And I think that's number one. But the goal of this slide is whatever you are asking for out in the world, make sure you're communicating that, whatever it is.
Chase your dreams. Right? And be creative.
Yeah.
So speaking of my personal brand being like so edgy and crazy, let me show you something I did for a kids camp. This is just another great example. Another great example for cultivating a project. So again, it usually circles back. So we started here and I was like, sure. The brief was like, we're on a mission to Mars. And so I was like, Mars, red planet. And then the feedback was, we don't want to have red in the logo. And I was like, oh, okay, we're going to be cultivating this. Sounds good. And so we moved and then went over here. Right. And then we moved into, we want more planets. And I was like, okay. And then there's too many stars. So then the stars turned into circles. And there's too many orbits. So then we went less orbits. And then here, what if we didn't have any stars? So we did a version with no stars. And then we kept going and thought, oh, we want to have more of like an elliptic kind of orbit. So we started going here. These colors were crazy. And then it kept going down here. I believe these are different stars, question mark? Different reverse outs. It's different reverses. And then we eventually landed right here is where we landed. And so a lot of times as you work on projects, it is just banging your head against the wall until you land on something that the client likes and that they work with. For me, this is not as strong as what this was. I think that this is a way stronger logo with these colors, especially for a kids camp. But at a certain point, your cultivating has to kind of be toward the client, right? And you have to say, cool, I can't dig anymore. Here is the shovel. Tell me where we need to go, right? And so when you hit that point, You just do the work, and
you might just need to be like, I need to finish this, collect my check, and move on to the next one.
Yes. And thank you, Henrik, saying it looks like NASA project with patches and stickers. Yes, that's what I was hoping for. Is that kind of space vibe.
Yeah.
We love space vibes. So, Nick, what is your advice, or maybe like resources? Do you have any resources of people that are trying to cultivate their skills?
Ooh, that's a great question. I would say the Discover panel maybe in our Adobe
let's talk about that thing that we had on the schedule to talk about that I forgot about until this moment.
We've got them right here.
Right here. So if you go to Illustrator, you can always click on Learn. And right here, there is a ton of tutorials for you to learn. If you don't want to do it this way and you want to do it in the app, what's over here? Look there's another Discover panel, and the Discover panel right there is going to give you, and yeah, you can go to Help and then click on
Get Tutorial right here. Yep, and you got them all here. You can search around. There's tons of great ones in there. They're in different levels too, which is really nice. You got beginner, intermediate, and advanced. But do a search for something you're looking for and see how it can help you. I've used this many times. I love that people just share quick little nuggets of how to get over something, and I'm seeing a lot more of it now on social ever since Adobe's latest updates, so it's kind of cool.
Yep. So thanks so much for joining us. Come back next week. We have a very I literally just cut straight to the outro. We have another special episode coming up next week full of secrets that we can't tell you about. Yay, our favorite kind of promo here on Office Hours. So we'll be talking next week. It'll be a grand old time, and I will see you. Nick, any advice going into the week?
Ooh, plant those seeds.
Plant those seeds, and happy Pride, everybody. Pride starts tomorrow. So we'll see you next week. Bye.
Later.